of something referred to as a sense of accomplishment, but of only the vaguest imaginings of what it probably feels like. The closest I ever manage is the absence of feeling the stress of needing to get something done. I generally manage to brute force myself through the necessities of the day, but tend to feel like my gas tank is empty when it comes to doing productive things I'd like to do that are not necessary for day-to-day living. I have many rational arguments for why I should do things in my spare time that are more challenging than others, but I have yet to find an argument that is convincing. What have you found to be the most useful when you are negotiating with yourself? That's from Frederick.
Hey, Frederick, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Well, how old are you, Frederick?
34.
34. And what do you feel you might be capable of if you set your mind to it?
Good question. I don't really know because there's just not that burning passion to go out there and do things.
So what do you want from me then? I mean, if you don't really want to do a whole bunch of stuff, then don't. That's your choice, right?
Yes.
Maybe I'm missing something here. It's like me calling someone up and saying, "Well, I was going to learn piano. I started a little bit. I feel kind of dissatisfied." It's like, do you want to learn piano? Not really. It's like, I'm not really sure where to go. I'm open to it, but I'm just not really sure where to go from here.
Yeah, that's kind of always been my problem with negotiating with myself, is just sort of being in the position of, well, let's go and do this and make it happen. And getting the response of, I guess we could.
Yeah, so maybe you can just bump through life like a cloud, like a leaf on a stream, and end your days that way. I mean, I'm not criticizing. It's like, if you don't really want to do anything, I guess you don't have to do anything, right? I'm just not sure what the problem is.
Mostly I was just curious because you've kind of put forth this very rational sort of method of coming upon morals, and I was curious if you had a similar take on just like human motivation of just sort of a
I
rational.
see. Because everything that you say that has importance has air quotes around it, according to what I'm hearing, like morals, rational arguments, and so on. Would you say that you're a cynical person, Fred?
Yes.
Okay, good. Not good, but I understand. And why do you think you're a cynical person? Sorry, before we get to that, what does cynicism mean to you when I say that?
Very contrarian.
No, that's called a contrarian. What do you mean by cynicism?
Just being very skeptical when people tell me things.
Well, that's also called being philosophical, right? You should be skeptical when people tell you things. But what about, that doesn't mean you put everything in air quotes, right? Are you skeptical of like me? I mean, do you think that I strive to tell the truth and all that?
Yes.
Okay, so then why is my shit in air quotes? Because when you're talking to me about my rational arguments about morality, like my stuff's in air quotes. And that's, I guess, where I find, I'm not offended or anything. I'm just kind of curious as to why, if you think I tell the truth, you'd put my perspectives in air quotes.
I guess I wasn't intending to No,
but you say that you're a cynic, so you know that you have that tendency, right?
Yes.
Okay. So why do you want to put my stuff in air quotes if you claim that I'm a truth teller? Or another way of asking this, since I know this is a tough way to put it, is what if you didn't put my stuff in air quotes? What if I was a genuinely decent, moral person trying to do good in the world? What would that cost you to not put my stuff in air quotes?
Honestly, I think I was just too busy filing through my mental filing cabinet to properly articulate my words.
Okay, so are you bailing out of the conversation here because you're giving me a non-answer?
No. I'm not quite connecting what you mean by air quotes and what I was trying to say.
Well, it means that you're like when you talked to me, and you'll listen to this. So you'll hear this when you listen back to it,
Yes.
Frederick. But
Yes.
when you were talking to me, it's like you come up with rational arguments about morality, and and it's all very emotionally distant and disrespectful, not to me, but to your own sense of judgment, right? If you listen to me, then I assume it's because you think I have important and valuable things to say. And so when you talk to me, if you put what I have to say or my arguments in this kind of emotionally distant air quote stuff, I don't quite understand why you would do that, if that makes sense.
Yes. I was trying to, because so often morality is very emotionally charged with most people, and you've managed to present it in a way that is clear and concise, and doesn't have all the emotional baggage attached to it.
Right. So why air quotes when you're describing my position?
I was not trying to
I
do
know, I
air
get
quotes.
that. I get that. I get
yes.
that. Do you get any sense that I might be correct about your distancing and diminishment of my perspective?
What you're saying makes sense. I think mostly the fault is mine in that.
I didn't say fault. I think it's a habit. I
Yes.
don't think you were trying to do anything mean. I don't think you were trying to do anything disrespectful. I'm certainly not offended.
Mm-hmm.
But I still notice, right? I still
Yes.
notice. So what happens if you're not cynical with me?
That was the purpose in calling is
No, just answer the question.
Okay.
Don't keep jumping
Sorry.
out to frame it.
Yep.
Just answer the
No.
question,
Okay.
or don't. I mean, but tell me you're not going to. What happens if you're not cynical with me? I mean, I know. I'm just wondering if you know.
I don't know.
Pain.
Okay.
Pain. Because what if you do have great gifts? What if you're, in a cowardly way, backing off from the necessary gifts that you could give to the world? What if you could help make people happy? What if you could help make the world a better place? What if you're kind of chickening out? What if you're squandering the gifts that you've been given? What if you're consuming the courage, the moral courage of those who came before you, who built a free society, without adding anything to it and, in fact, detracting from it? What if? I'm not saying that's true, but you got to be thinking that at some level, right?
Well, I think that's entirely correct.
All right. How are you going to feel going forward, Frederick, if you continue to be distant, to air quote things, to be cynical, and to achieve nothing of substance? Where do you see yourself at the age of 40 or 50 or 60?
More or less the same place I am now.
That's not correct. Life is always change. You understand? You're either going to
Yes.
change for the better or you're going to change for the worse, but change you will. And it ain't going to be a change for the better if you continue, right?
Yes.
Do you think anyone can love a coward?
No,
Do you think a coward can love himself?
not really.
So if it's true that you have this concern about being a coward, you understand the price that you're paying for this perspective is no self-respect, no love, and a growing sense of futility, depression, anxiety, emptiness, which you will feel very tempted and probably will succumb to the temptation of spreading. You see, everything that we decide, we universalize, whether we like it or not. So if you back down from necessary challenges, do you know what you say? Well, there's no such thing as truth, really. All morality is a con. Everyone's just trying to rip you off. And I'm a wise and smart and sensible person for not playing the game. You spread it. You spread it. Everybody spreads, whoever they are. We're like a dollop of batter when you're making pancakes. It just bloop, spreads and smokes. Everyone spreads, right? So if you're making these choices, I spread what I have committed to. And if you've committed to non-commitment, you're going to spread that as a wise move, and you're going to infect other people with that very perspective, just as you tried to infect me earlier in the conversation by inviting me to a cynical distance from my own position by putting everything I do in air quotes.
Fair enough.
So who taught you that power was either abusive or impossible? Who taught you that commitment was only for the crazy or the bad?
Nobody that I'm aware of.
When did you first have this cynicism or this distance?
As soon as I became responsible for things.
And what age was that?
Well, it's hard to pinpoint because it's something that ramps up over time. So like when you first have to start doing chores, it's very small amount of responsibility, and as you go through life it grows bigger and bigger.
The best way to breed cynicism, Frederick, is for someone to have power over you who's a rank hypocrite. Cynicism is then the defense against manipulation. Does that make any sense to you?
Yes.
So in your adverse childhood experience score, you said that you had a household member who was depressed, mentally ill, or suicide attempt. And who was that?
Both my mother, my younger sister, and myself were all diagnosed with depression at some point.
I'm going to assume your mother first.
Yes.
Why do you think your mother was depressed?
I've never tried to articulate it into words. I'm not sure.
Why do you think? If you had to give an answer.
That she felt like she wasn't doing as much as she could be doing.
I'm sure that's completely unrelated to your experience, though, right?
I'm sure it is perfectly related.
Of course
to my
it is.
experience.
Of course it is. Do you think that your mother had abilities that she backed away from?
No. I think she was fairly accomplished. Perhaps not in her hobbies, but like she was definitely on top of things as far as the necessaries, work, taking care of the kids, getting us fed and clothed and all that fun stuff.
Fed and clothed and all of that fun stuff. You see, this is constant with you. Even that's kind of snarky and cynical, right?
It's not intended to be.
No, I'm not. Again, I'm not blaming you. I'm just pointing it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you hit a high note, I'll say you hit a high note, right? But was she a good person? A moral person?
Yes.
How do you know?
I can't think of any examples of things that I would consider being a bad person.
Dude. Dude. Really? Because you were very convinced that she was a good person. I'm not saying she's not, but I'm an empiricist. I want evidence, right? So when you say that your mother was a good person and I ask you how you know, and then you say, well, I can't think she didn't kick hobos to death, or like, you know what I mean? She didn't steal,
right.
She didn't run a Ponzi scheme, she didn't work for the Federal Reserve. Like, I mean, how do you know she was a good person?
I have trouble going through memories because my memory is very associative. So when somebody gives me an abstract and says, present examples of this from your past, the examples aren't anchored to the idea. They're anchored to.
All right. I don't know what any of that means. So let me just ask you some more basic questions.
All right.
Did she hit her children?
No.
Did she yell at her children?
Very rarely.
Did she ever call you names?
Nope.
Did she teach you how to think for yourself?
Not in so many words.
Well, what? Hand gestures, mime, colors, unicorn calls? I don't know what that means.
It means I feel as if thinking for myself was I'm not sure how anything she did would directly connect to me thinking for myself. If I were to break it down further, I might be able to come up with some things, but nothing is coming to me at the top of my mind.
Let me ask you this then, Frederick. Did she know that you were cynical as a child?
Yes.
And what did she do to help you deal with your cynicism?
I don't think she knew what to do.
What do you mean she didn't know what to do? I mean, I'll give you an example. So my daughter is a bit of a perfectionist.
Yep.
So it is difficult for her when she can't do something that she thinks she should be able to do. She has a very uneasy relationship with that. And I'm not just going to say, you'll be able to do it, or it's no big deal. Like you have to engage with your kids. I don't know exactly what the answer is for her, but I think it's important that I recognize and talk about these things with her to make sure that she neither backs away from challenges nor gets too upset to be able to complete them positively or have a positive relationship with them. And I struggle with some of these things myself. So it's it's something I know, and it's something that I talk about because I care, right? So if your mother knew that you were cynical and knew that you were emotionally distant or knew that you were overly skeptical, even to genuine virtue, that's something you'd want to help your child with, right?
Yes.
Because now you're 34 and you're somewhat frustrated at not having achieved stuff, right? Which is related to the cynicism and the emotional distance and the air quotes and all this stuff, right? So if your mother knew that you had this challenge, why wouldn't she say, I mean, nobody has to have some big magic answer. You just stay in conversation about it. She knows that you're cynical, and you say, oh, well, when did the cynicism come about? Or what do you feel when you feel cynical? And do you know anyone who's not cynical? How did they make you feel? And all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's, excuse me, it's just basic parenting, right? I mean, or friendship or caring about someone is talk about things that matter, right?
Yes.
So what did your mother do to help you with your cynicism? You can say nothing, because if she had done it, you'd remember it. And if it was just once, you'd remember it even more vividly. And if you don't remember it at all, it means she didn't, right?
Yes.
How long did you live at home for?
Till I was 24.
Yeah, so she has a quarter of a century, minus a couple of years from when you're very little. Let's just say 20 years. Let's say 15 years. Doesn't really matter to me. But she's got year after year after year of knowing something about you that's difficult for you without talking to you about it. I never know what the hell people talk about, Frederick. I mean, I hear this story all the time. You've heard it before on these shows. It's not personal to you. I was home for 20 years. I dealt with this crippling issue and no one ever talked to me about anything. Why? TV was too good? Candy Crush level too enticing? Like, how on earth do you live with people year after year after year and not talk about a single goddamn important thing? Or connect with anyone about anything real? Or notice and act on the fact that people have challenges or issues? Like, it just blows my mind. What is everyone doing with their time? We have the flappy mouth hole with teeth, tongue, and voice. And we have the two side flaps with ears that we can hear. Like, use them, people. Talk to each other. What about your dad?
He was a long haul trucker, so I saw him infrequently growing up. And I think part of I think both of my parents were I don't know if afraid is the right word, but they seemed very convinced that I was smarter than they were. And so I just kind of got the feeling that they didn't really know what to do.
Well, did they try? Did they pick up a book called "So You Think Your Child is Smarter Than You," or "So You Have a Gifted Child"? And I mean, did they try
Yeah,
anything?
My mom did read books along those lines and tried to get me involved in like our atrocious public school did have some sort of gifted program thing that I was involved in grade school. Once it transitioned to middle and high school, instead of having the class for the gifted kids, they would just shove all of those into the AP courses, which was basically the same as everyone else, just with more work and a big test you had to take.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a huge problem with a diverse society that you're going to get more East Asians and more white kids in the gifted class. So guess what? You can't have any gifted classes anymore because it's racist. Meanwhile, China is investing in every genius they can lay their hands on. I wonder how that's going to play out in the world
Well,
stage
the
over
math
time.
classes were the worst because there they just skipped you ahead a year. So you were in class with all of the, ninth graders who were a year behind.
Oh, right.
So
You're on the tail end of the dullards ahead of you, right?
pretty much.
Right. And what happened with your sister?
She's always just had issues with depression uh, since from teenager till today.
Do you think that when your mom read the book on, okay, so you have smarter kids, do you think that those books said, make sure you spend 24 years not talking about anything related to their personalities?
I have no idea what would be in those books.
We have some idea, don't we? I can guarantee you that none of those books said, so you have a really gifted child. Try and speak about the least important things for 2.5 decades. Small talk, nothing talk, useless talk. None of that would have happened, right?
Well, I think I tended to do most of the talking because I would get interested in something and would just talk nonstop about it.
And what happened from there?
Uh, I mean, nothing specific. Like she would, I don't know that she would ever ask any questions necessarily, but like if there was something I was interested in, she'd, take me to the library and help me get all of the books on that topic that I wanted. And
which you could have easily done for yourself. When was the last time you were excited or passionate about things the way that you were as a kid?
it tends to happen frequently, but it tends to be very short-lived. Like I'll come across something that I find interesting and will go a little obsessive compulsive on it for, a week or 2 weeks and then just be back to zero.
My God, man, do you listen to yourself at all? You are characterizing your interest in something as a form of mental illness and insanity.
It kind of feels that way sometimes, just because of how fleeting it is.
Wait, you think obsessive compulsive disorder is fleeting?
No.
So what are you talking about? The whole point of obsessive compulsive disorder is you can't stop. Can't stop washing your hands 500 times a day, day after day, week after week, year after year. Why would you characterize your level of interest in something as a massive, life-destroying mental dysfunction?
Because when I'm in the midst, it does kind of feel that way sometimes. Like I can't do anything else.
That's called enthusiasm. Why is that mental illness to you?
Because it just burns itself out.
Well, of course it burns itself out because you keep calling it crazy. It's mental illness. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. Hey, enthusiasm, where are you going? Stomp, stomp, squish, squish, pee, pee. Of course it goes away. Is it welcome?
Apparently not.
You verbally abuse your own damn enthusiasm, man. I don't know why I can't maintain my enthusiasm. Well, maybe you stop punching it.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, God, man.
I have a tough time not beating up on myself.
And where did you learn that from? We're not born that way.
I'm sure part of it is being told throughout my entire childhood that I have so much potential. So when I would, not do what I was supposed to, that was very disappointing.
And who told you that you had so much potential?
Sometimes my parents, but mostly like teachers and school counselors and stuff.
Right. And in what fields or in what disciplines, Frederick, did you have the most potential, according to your teachers?
In school, all of them. All through grade school, I did very well in pretty much everything. And then when I got to middle school, I found out I had a great deal of difficulty organizing my thoughts along the lines of a paper. I can't remember the exact type of paper where you spell out, a position and defend it and intro, conclusion, and all of that.
Like an essay?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
I
so
always struggled with...
you had it easy, and then you had a challenge, right?
Yes.
Something that didn't come easy.
Yes.
And what happened then? When
I
it
was
wasn't
more
easy
stubborn
for you,
than
but you had
everyone
to work
else.
for it, what happened?
I was more stubborn than everyone else.
I don't know what that means.
If somebody tries to get me to do something I don't want to do, I will dig in my heels and not budge.
Oh, I know. But what's interesting is that you call your enthusiasm obsessive compulsive disorder, and you call not taking coaching admirable stubbornness. Like you've got it entirely backwards.
Quite right.
So when someone says, here, I'm going to help you learn how to do this, and you're like, I don't want to know, I don't want to hear, like, what do you just say, no? Are you uncoachable? Nobody has anything to offer you. Nobody has anything to teach you. Nobody has anything of value to bring to the table to you.
No, there are things that I'm interested in that I'll become involved in. And
No, but that's you driving it.
yeah.
You had essays that you had real trouble writing. Did people, I assume people tried to help you, correct you, coach you, something, right? You could have gone to the library, you could have learned how to write essays, you could have read the best essays around you, all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do?
Made a half-assed attempt.
Why? Why did you back away from that challenge?
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm asking you now. Look, I'm a smart guy. There's stuff in school I found really, really tough. Really tough.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember a friend of mine helping me who was better at math than I was, grinding through algebraic division. I got so tired of scraping by in math class that I decided to spend part of my summer retaking the math that year, so at least I wouldn't be so not like always playing Mr. Catch-Up going forward, right? And when I was doing my master's, I had to learn how to translate French. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But I worked at it and found a way that I could do it. I mean, it sucks. There's lots of stuff that doesn't come easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to let that stop you in life? I don't see how that would benefit anyone. Well, obviously it benefits someone in your life, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, but yeah. Who are you that you never have to work?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Who are you that you never have to work? Like that if it doesn't come easy, you just don't have to do it. You just avoid it. You resentfully just pull away from it. Do you think that everything should come easy for you? That everything should be effortless? That like the moment that something difficult comes up, you get stubborn and resentful, and you no one can tell you what to do. And
Well, that's not always the case.
Don't tell me you've got an issue and then say, well, a few times in my life I did. Come on, right?
A few times
I'm not
in my
wasting
life
my
I
time
have.
if you're gonna like 1% me.
No, you're correct.
Okay,
It
so
was
let's
1%.
stay with this rather. See here,
Yes.
here, this is exactly right. I'm asking you some difficult questions, and what are you doing? Blink! You're trying to beam out. You're trying to fog me. You're trying to 1% me. Well, 1% of the time, I know a tall Chinese guy, right?
Yes.
Why? What's wrong with something being difficult? What am I? You're a smart guy. What's wrong with something being difficult?
Nothing.
Now you're just avoiding me again. You're giving me a fuck you here, right? Because you said that when things are difficult, you gave me the example, when things are difficult, you dig in your heels, you don't take coaching, you right? You avoid, you just do a half-assed effort, right? So then
Yes.
I ask you what's wrong with things being difficult, and you say nothing. After you've just spent 15 minutes explaining to me how you avoid doing things that are difficult. Because I'm not going to do the work of two people here.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
You can participate with me in the conversation, or I got lots of people who want to chat. I'm not threatening you. I'm just saying that I'm not going to work both sides of the convo here. It's about as much fun as playing table tennis against yourself by running around the table tennis table until you crack yourself in the hip.
I'm honestly struggling to keep up with the conversation.
Well, maybe you're not as smart as you think you are then.
Good.
Then you don't have to worry about this big achievement that you could have, right?
I mean, if I'm not smart, then
No, I didn't say you weren't smart. What did I say? Interesting that you'd flip that, though. What did I say?
You'd have to repeat it.
See, now, it's not that you're not smart, it's that you don't want to listen. What I said was, maybe you're not as smart as you think you are, not that you're not smart.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, because right now you're going rubber bones, right? So we're having a challenging conversation, and just like when you were having trouble with the essay as a kid, you're just doing a half-assed attempt and all of that. So my suggestion, Frederick, is look into that. I mean, I get we're not going to get anywhere today, other than, okay, so here's a challenge, and you go rubber bones. And the question is, why do you go rubber bones? You know, like that when you're a kid and somebody tries to pick you up and you just go completely limp.
Right. Perfect.
So yeah, the question is then, why do you go rubber bones when you hit a challenge? Well, because you have an ego based upon success. You have an ego based upon being smart, things coming easy, and succeeding relatively easily at what you're trying to do. That's your identity. And then when you come across something that's hard to do, that threatens your identity. And rather than readjust your identity to include things that are difficult and the pride that comes from mastering difficult things, what do? You dig in, you fog out, you rubber bone, you passive aggressive, you just manipulate your way out of the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a choice. But I mean, you can do anything you want in your life. Just be aware of it, right? Just say, okay, well, I've got a pretty fragile ego. I like to pretend that I'm really smart and everything comes easy. And the price of that, the price I pay for that, is that I never take on any challenges in my life, which leaves me fundamentally dissatisfied. Oh yeah, well, these are all choices. Do what you want, but know what you're doing. That's sort of my particular philosophy. So, and it's a shame that your parents didn't help you over that pretty significant hump when you were a kid and you faced your first big challenge in essays and you just kind of folded and everyone was like, well, okay. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame.
I would not, I would not say it was they did try.
They tried to help you learn how to write an essay?
Yes. My mother did put in a lot of effort to try to get me to be successful.
Right. Which is a double-edged sword, right? The more effort she puts in, sometimes the less effort you put in, right?
Right.
Because she's trying to will you to do something. And if you have a certain kind of personality and or choice, you resist being told what to do, even if it's the right thing to do, right?
Exactly.
You put being right above being happy.
Yes.
And the teachers, I assume, also tried to help you.
Yes.
And you kind of shit on everyone who tried to help you, right?
Yes. It was a very shitty thing to do.
So why? But why? Why would you do that? Forget the blame or, oh, it was wrong. I'm just genuinely curious. Like, why? You're facing a challenge. People are trying to help. Maybe badly, maybe well, I don't know. It doesn't hugely matter, but they're trying to help. So why would you spurn them and turn in this half-assed nothing essay?
The first thing that pops into my head is that I could.
Yeah, it's not much, though, because you could also have learned how to write better essays and gotten the genuine pride out of overcoming something that's difficult. Doing something that's easy, it's not going to give you a lot of pride. Hey, look, I can climb stairs holding a glass of water. Woo! Champion of the universe, right? Doing something that's difficult, that's going to give you some real pride. So saying, well, I said no because I could, well, you could have said yes. I mean, that's something you could have done as well. So I'm not sure that answers much.
Agreed. I think a big part of it is just that if I do this and do it well, then the expectations are going to increase. Whereas if I do it poorly, then the expectations stay the same.
But that is circular because, of course, the expectations are going to increase. You want that, at least if you don't want to become bored and dissatisfied in your life. Again, nobody sits their whole life learning how to play piano by getting chopsticks right. So it's not that expectations would increase. First of all, you want that over time. And secondly, there's nothing wrong with expectations increasing if you have confidence that with work and dedication, you can rise to meet those expectations, right? There's nothing wrong with expectations rising if you understand that continuing to take grade 5 over and over again for the next 40 years and calling yourself a genius for getting the material right is not a path to happiness. And also if the expectations rise and you're like, good, I can work, I can achieve, I'll gain more self-respect from the next set of challenges. So what's wrong with the expectations increasing?
There's nothing wrong. I just don't want them to.
Would you like the answer, Frederick?
Yes.
Now, I'm fully aware that you're putting me into a position where to keep the show going, I have to give you the answer rather than have you work for it. So I'm fully aware that you're putting me into exactly the same situation as the people in your past. I'm aware of that. The answer is that you are really fucking pissed off with someone.
Well, if that person is me, what's the best thing to do about that?
No, the person is not you, because you're the one who's suffering. If you decide not to learn how to write an essay, who suffers? If I decide I'm not going to learn how to translate French for my master's degree, who suffers? The school continues, my teachers continue, they get paid, I just don't get my master's, right?
Right.
So it can't be that you're mad at yourself, because you're the one who's suffering. You're willing to harm yourself in order to thwart the happiness of someone else. Now, my guess would be that your mother had significant ego investment in you being smart, or you being successful, or you doing well. And you were mad at that because it wasn't about you, but just your abilities. And you were thwarting that in her. It's a possibility.
That doesn't strike me as true.
I could be projecting. Like I remember when I was in grade 8, I took an adult computer science class at a local college. And it was about how to read and write disk sectors on 5.25-inch floppies. Boring as hell. So I sat in the back and I programmed computer games because I was bored. My mother kept introducing me as, here's my son, he's taking adult computer science courses and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? Now, I never got the credit because I never did the work and didn't show up for the exam because I didn't care one tiny little bit about reading and writing bytes to sectors on a 5.25-inch floppy disk. And eventually, because she wanted me to keep taking the next course, and I was like, no, I'll get around to it. And I finally had to say, no, I didn't. It was a stupid course. It was not for a little kid, and I didn't do it. Right? I can't take the next course. Now, I wasn't just because it was my mom or anything like that, but so it could be that it's something to do with that. It could be something to do with something else. But you backing down from a challenge, your teachers still get their retirement. They still get their pension. They still get paid. They still get their health care. They still get their summers off. It's you who gets stalled, right? You pay. You pay. So why are you willing to self-sabotage? It's not because you hate yourself. The consequence of self-sabotage is hating yourself. It's not the cause. It's because you're mad at someone else. Were you mad at your dad for being gone all the time?
No.
Well, that's where I would look if I were you, somewhere around that, because it's a very aggressive thing. When you're a kid, and this is true for most people who are adults too, the emotions we recreate in others are usually the emotions we cannot accept in ourselves. So you're really frustrated in your life, so you're trying to frustrate me. It's unconscious and all of that, right?
Yes.
And you go rubber bones when you're a kid, so you go rubber bones with me. And what that produces, if I didn't have self-knowledge, would be frustration and anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in your teachers, you produced frustration and anger because they're saying, hey, no, man, we'll help you learn how to write an essay. And your mom's like, oh, I got a book out. We can help you learn how to write an essay. And you're like, fine, you can try. But fuck you anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that you have a lot of frustration and anger that you're not communicating or not able to communicate or no one's curious about. And because you can't express it, you end up recreating it in other people.
I can't imagine who that would be.
You said you didn't care that your dad, or it didn't really matter to you that your dad wasn't around.
I got to see him regularly, and in the summers I'd go with him.
You go with him in the truck.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was fun. It was kind of a little adventure.
Was there any other teacher or adults that you had any challenges with?
I know I did not get along with my 5th grade teacher. My mother did not like her either.
Why?
The only thing I can remember is just that she was mean.
What are you feeling at the moment, Frederick, in this conversation as we talk?
Completely ill-equipped to keep up.
That's not a feeling.
Curious, fascinated.
None of those are feelings.
Nothing.
You feel nothing.
That's the only thing I'm feeling right now is nothing.
I don't know if you get, this is kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime conversation, right? About your history, about your potential, about your future, about your happiness, about your cynicism, about your capacity to love and be loved. Unless you have these every week, which I don't think you do, this is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime chat, isn't it? So
yes.
Far. Right. So you feel nothing. That's sad, I think. It's sad for me.
Yes, that is sad. I know before the call I was feeling super excited and elated and worried I was going to, totally fanboy getting to talk to you. But at the moment I don't really feel anything.
Was there any time in our chat that you felt something?
Mostly just overwhelmed.
Is that fear? What do you mean by overwhelmed, as far as feeling goes? Like mad, sad, bad, glad, scared, whatever it is, right? But it's not like we tend to overcomplicate our feelings.
Yeah, it's you're just very insightful and intellectually I can't keep up with everything that's going on.
I'm not asking for your intellect. Like, we're not having a discussion about abstract philosophy here. I'm asking for you, for your feelings, experiences, right? I'm not asking for your intellect. We're not having an intellectual discussion.
I guess I just view my entire history just through a very analytical series of events.
Which hasn't worked for you, right?
No.
So why would you want to do something that doesn't work?
I don't know how else to shuffle through my memory.
Right. How's your dating life?
I'm married.
How long have you been married for?
10 years and a month.
And do you have kids?
2.
Congratulations.
Thank
What's
you.
your wife's biggest complaint, if she has one?
That I'm not there enough.
You mean like emotionally or physically?
I think both. I tend to not ever be in a hurry to get home, partially because I stay in the morning to get the kids on the bus and everything. So even if I left on time, the younger would already be in bed.
What do you do?
I am the IT department and accounting assistant at a small company.
Right. Why don't you want to go home as much?
Because my wife tends not to be very interested in talking about ideas, and she's very bought into the sort of feminist frame of how the world works, and so if I try to bring up anything counter to that, it goes not well.
Was she a feminist when you met?
No, I wouldn't even necessarily say she is one now. It's just a lot of the, wage gap and the sorts of things who people who don't identify as feminists still think are true.
Does she work?
She works part-time.
So you pay most of the bills?
No, actually, we live with another couple. So I pay less than 50%, more than 30%.
You live with another couple? What does
Yes.
that mean?
We have a household of 4 adults and 2 children.
Why do you live with another couple, Frederick?
Because we all wanted to live in the same house.
Okay. Why do you all want to live in the same house?
We originally considered ourselves all one big family, but I unfortunately am the black sheep.
Wait, what do you mean? Everyone's sleeping together?
No, the 3 of them don't have super high libidos, so that's sort of a non-issue.
Wait, but if they did have high libidos, you'd be sleeping together.
If everyone was cool with it.
Okay. And how did you meet this couple?
We've all been friends for my wife and the other woman were friends all through high school, and same with me and the other husband. And me and my wife were also friends with the other husband in high school, and we used to all hang out.
But have you guys been monogamous within the household on principle, or is it just this low libido thing?
It's just the low libido thing. I have permission to go and do other things if I should so choose to do so.
Oh, so you have an open marriage?
Yes.
Right. And is it specific to the couple who lives with you, or is it other people as well?
Other people as well. It hasn't really gone anywhere, though.
What do you mean it hasn't really gone anywhere? This is kind of foggy.
I'm not going around sleeping with a bunch of people.
Have you slept with other people since you got married?
Yes.
Okay. How many?
2.
And does your wife sleep with other people?
She has a boyfriend. I don't I don't ask regularly for details.
Really?
Yes.
Do you think the kids are yours?
Yes.
How do you know?
The one we had before, when it was just the two of us and we were monogamous. And the second one is biologically the other partners.
Wait, one of your kids is the other man's in the household.
Yes.
So I guess that's one of the things that ties you all together, right?
Yeah.
How did this come about?
It just sort of happened.
No. Don't rubber bone me on that. Come on, man. Come
No,
on, man. Hey, oops, tripped and fell into my friend's wife's vagina. Well, sometimes there's fish on the floor, you slip,
That's the most straightforward explanation, because the details of it's the other male who was a friend of mine from high school moved in with us when it was just and I, and there had been feelings between the two of them in high school, but they never really did anything with it, and I didn't have an issue with it.
Wait, you didn't have an issue with a guy your wife was hot for moving in and putting the moves on your wife?
Correct. I don't.
Why would you
romantic
why
jealousy?
would you not have an issue with that?
As long as they're having fun, it doesn't bother me. Like that whatever that biological button is, mine doesn't work. I don't feel romantic jealousy.
Has your wife had sex with her boyfriend with you in the house?
No, because we don't.
Because that would be weird.
No, well, we don't ever bring partners to the house for.
Well, you do bring partners' children into the house, so.
Yes, but we were already considered ourselves a single family at that point.
And your wife wants to sleep with her boyfriend. Does she sleep with you at all still, or no?
Not since the whole anti-feminist thing. That kind of.
Oh, so when you question some of her feminist indoctrination, she stops sleeping with you but continues to have sex with her boyfriend.
I don't remember the exact order of events, but the things between her and I had sort of cooled off over time. Like she and I don't actually know if she and her boyfriend have had sex. They might just, cuddle and watch movies.
Yeah. Okay. They've had sex. Come on.
They probably have.
Come on.
They probably have.
Let's cuddle and watch movies.
However, she is of the opinion that she would rather just, masturbate than to have sex. Like,
well, that's very empowered of her, I suppose.
She just finds it to be less work, even if I'm doing most of the work. She just, for whatever reason, she would rather masturbate than have sex.
When was the last time you felt emotionally close to your wife?
I love my family to death and do whatever I can to provide and protect.
Do you even know when you're not answering the question? I'm just curious. Like
No, I
halfway
don't.
through what you're saying, you say, I'm going to get him. I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just getting Hallmark card generalities with squishy lips sticking out from every corner.
I don't notice.
When was the
I do
last
that.
time you felt emotionally close to your wife, if ever?
I can't recall a specific instance.
Were you ever, do you think, emotionally close to your wife? Have you been emotionally close to anyone?
I don't know.
That's a no. You can't miss it.
Yes,
It's like saying, have you
correct.
ever been in a car that rolled over? Not sure. You'd kind of remember. Right?
Yes.
Why did you marry her?
Uh, it's gonna sound kind of silly, but I knew it was what was supposed to happen. I realize it's a completely irrational
Do you mean
belief.
like a mystical thing?
but-
Like it was fated or?
Yes. Basically, yeah.
Well, that's the price of not working on your essays now, isn't it? Complete indifference as to how your will can affect your world, right? Are you a determinist?
No, I operate on the presumption of free will.
But you married out of a deterministic kind of commitment, right?
That statement appears true. It doesn't feel quite right.
Do your kids know that they're half siblings?
Yes.
What's the pause there? I feel like I got to put everything through 9 layers of your legal department
No,
or something. What do you mean? It's kind of yes or no, right? Have you told them? I guess that's about it. Have you told them that they're half siblings? That they have different dads?
I'm struggling to try to recall the exact details.
Oh my God, Frederick,
but-
come on. You can't forget that. Has anyone told them that they have two different fathers? Or do they call you dad and the other guy not dad?
No, they call me Papa and they call him Daddy.
Okay, so do they know that they come from different fathers? I mean, if they're 1 and 2 years old, I get it. They're kind of young, but I'm just curious.
10 and 5.
Okay, does the 10-year-old know that he has a different father from the 5-year-old?
I think so. I'm 99.9% sure.
Did you ever tell him?
No.
Why not? According to you, there's nothing wrong with it, right? So why wouldn't you tell him?
It was never a part of the conversation.
No, don't fucking do that to me. No, come on. Take some fucking ownership here. What do you mean it was never part of the conversation? Like he's just supposed to bring it up?
Well, no.
Come on. Have you ever told him? You said no. So has anyone ever told him? Otherwise, how would he know? Why wouldn't you tell him? He's got to know sometime, right? He's got medical history. He's got biology he's got to work with. He would probably want to know who his biological father is. He's got to know sometime, right?
Well, I have not specifically told him, but he does know because everyone in the household knows that the younger is of the other male.
You mean everyone in the household knows, so you assume the boy knows through osmosis? What do you mean? How would he know unless he's told?
I'm pretty sure the other wife has told him.
But I don't understand. Don't you all talk about this stuff? I mean, don't the adults sit down after the kids go to bed and say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by... Oh, you get to tell him. He's got to know. When's he got to know? When are we going to tell the 5-year-old? We got a non-traditional situation here that has significant implications for everyone involved, including the children who damn well didn't choose to have 2 different fathers living in the same household. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's making any decisions. What the hell's going on?
I don't think it was ever implicated that the younger was mine.
What now? Nobody knows the younger is yours?
No, it was never presupposed that the younger was mine within the household. Like,
I don't know what this means. I don't know what it means.
There was never a time. If I'm remembering this correctly, when my wife got pregnant with the second one, like, it wasn't a secret who the dad was.
Which is you?
No.
Those are the other ones. So you're the 10-year-old's father. The 5-year-old is the other ones.
Yes.
So are you saying that everyone knew that the 5-year-old was not yours?
Yes.
And how did they know?
Because that's who the dad is.
So that's the 5-year-old has had it introduced that Frederick is not your father. He's daddy-ish, but this other guy is your dad. Don't call me dad because that's your dad over there.
Well, in that regard, no. He's daddy, I'm papa, my wife is mommy, and the other wife is mama.
So it's completely unclear to the baby then, right? Or to the 5-year-old.
To the 5-year-old, yes.
To the 10-year-old, maybe.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure there was a discussion at I don't trust my own memory very well.
I don't know if you even know how dissociated you are. Do you think you've made things easier or tougher for the kids in the household? You adults. And by the way, that was in air quotes.
Tougher.
Right. Why are you making it tougher for the kids?
No good reason.
So they can take comfort in knowing that they've been kind of screwed over, but at least it was for no good reason.
Do I justify it in my own mind, or accept that it was a poor decision?
What was a poor decision?
Having a blended family.
Was it a poor decision for you?
I think on the whole, it has worked out for the positive.
How can you say that? Your wife's fucking another guy. You're not getting any sex. The kids don't even know whether they're related or not and how much they're related. They're calling a whole bunch of people mom and dad with no idea who the biology is. Come on. Are you putting this as a poster of successful human interaction here?
No.
Okay, so tell me where the success is here. I'm open. Make the case. I mean, for your wife, sex is like you facing an essay question as a kid. I'd rather just flake out. I'd rather just,
Yes. Financially, we are better off as a blended family than we would be as two separate households.
Well, that's a hypothesis. You don't know that for sure.
True.
Because you've got no null hypothesis, right? No comparison.
Yes. I'm supposing what it could be compared to.
I mean, if you and your wife were close and having great sex and she was supporting everything you did and you weren't dissociated and like, who knows where your career could go, right? You say you're an assistant, right?
I'm the IT department and the accounting assistant. It's a very small company.
So you're an assistant in a small company.
Yes.
Not exactly climbing Mount Vesuvius of career excellence, right?
Correct.
Right. So who knows where you could be if you didn't have this messed up clusterfrack of a genetic frisbee game going on at home, right?
Yes.
If you were happy in your marriage and your wife loved you and supported you and you were close and your kids knew who the hell the sperm came from.
Correct.
And is that the price? Say, well, my wife can screw other men if it benefits me financially.
Well, at the current point, it's not financially benefiting me, but it is definitely financially benefiting the children. We recently had a renegotiation of the financial arrangement. It used to be that everything would go into the family pot, and each of the adults got $150 a month to spend on whatever they wanted, and all of the rest of it was for bills, and the adults sit down and discuss what to do with any extra. But I recently renegotiated my position so that I could have a bit more financial freedom to do what I want. Because originally it would be like, for example, if there was something wrong with my car that I knew I could fix myself, it didn't really make sense for me to spend an entire weekend fixing it myself when the repairs would just come out of the family pot. Whereas the renegotiated position is I pay my share of the bills, of the household bills, and then any expenses that pertain only to me, I pay out of what I make.
So you tried socializing wombs and wallets and it didn't really work out, right?
It didn't work out for me. Everybody else is still happy with the arrangement.
So they're happy exploiting you. But you're one big happy family.
No, I consider the renegotiated position to be fair.
But they were happy until you renegotiated it.
I was happy too until I got a big bonus at work that I wanted to keep.
So you want to keep your big bonus at work, just not your wife. That's where your possession kicks in. Share the wife's vagina, share the wife's eggs, share the wife's ovary and womb and fallopian tubes and all that. That you can share. But the money, oh man, that's too far. That is too far. I can cuck and have my wife bang some other guy. He can even be the father of her children or her child. That's fine. But when it comes to $250, man's got to draw a line somewhere.
I realize it doesn't make any difference, but it was significantly more than $250.
I said that in part so you would say that. Because the fact that you feel the need to correct me on the number is part of the problem.
True. I did walk into that one.
Yeah. How does this go down in the neighborhood? Does everyone know?
No, from the outside, we're just two married couples living together.
So nobody knows.
No,
Why?
it's not a very tight-knit neighborhood. Everyone just does their own thing.
Well, you don't have any friends in the neighborhood?
The kids do, but the adults mostly just stick to themselves.
So does anyone know that the kids are two different dads and the two dads live in the home and the wives are handed out a little bit like Halloween candy? I mean, does anybody know this stuff?
Not in the neighborhood.
Who knows? Your parents?
Yes, all of the parents know.
What do they say?
Mostly that it's really weird. It doesn't help that for the two sets of grandparents, this would be the second grandchild for one of them.
You know,
There was
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there was a time where the 5-year-old was the first grandchild to one set of grandparents.
I wonder how the boomers feel about their addiction to relativism now. Now, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think if your wife loved you enough, she wouldn't want to share you? Like, you know how you love that bonus so much that you didn't want to share it? Do you think that if your wife loved you that much, she wouldn't want to share you?
Possibly, possibly not.
That's not an answer. You didn't want to share the bonus, right?
I preferred not to.
Why are you redefining me, dude? What the fuck are you doing?
Okay, sorry.
What are you doing? Like, you're trying to correct me by giving me a synonym. Let's go north. No, I want to go the opposite of south. Oh, it's really productive.
Fair enough.
You didn't want to share the bonus, right?
Correct.
You cared about the bonus. It felt bad or wrong to share the bonus, right?
Yes.
Even though that was breaking the sharing rule, right?
Yes.
Why doesn't your wife feel about you the way that you feel about the bonus?
Maybe she does. If it had come to not being able to find a negotiable position, I would have given up the bonus.
I'm not sure. I don't follow that at all. Sorry.
If we couldn't have come to an agreement on a different way of handling money, I would have handed over the bonus.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, which probably means I'm being unclear. So I'm sorry for that. So, Frederick, why does your wife not care about you enough to not want to share you in the way that you care enough about your bonus to not want to share your bonus?
I don't know.
Why does she prefer masturbation to sex with you?
I don't know.
After this whole conversation, you don't know? Can you theorize a little?
Not particularly, because I don't equate avarice and uh, romantic jealousy.
Well, you were jealous of other people using your money, weren't you?
For the most part, no.
No. Now, with the bonus. You were jealous of other people using your money. You wanted to keep the money for
Yes.
yourself, right?
In that one instance, yes.
But you're not jealous of other people using your wife, the mother of your child. And she's being used. Why? Because I doubt the boyfriend wants to move in and be dude number 3 dipping his wick in the sloppy thirds, right? So she's not available for a relationship. She's a mom. She's a mom and a half. No, she's a dual mom. There are two, it's like you guys are an entire Section 8 housing complex together, right? So your wife is not available for a romantic relationship. She's married, she's half married, there's half bastards floating around all over the place, so she's not, so why is he there? He's there for sex. He's using her for sex. We know that because if he really loved her, he wouldn't want to get involved with her because it would be too painful to love her and not be able to be with her. So she's being used because she can't commit. So what does a guy want to hang around a woman for if he doesn't love her enough to really want to be with her? What's he there for? He's there for sex.
That's assuming that they are having sex. They have been friends since high school.
Yeah, okay. Spock. They're having sex, but okay. Let me get back to your question here. It is often difficult to describe something one is lacking, even when it is glaringly obvious that there is something everyone else is experiencing. What do you think you're lacking that you think everyone else is experiencing, Frederick?
A sense of time.
A sense of
Time.
time.
I don't sense the passage of time. That's partially why my memory is so screwed up.
Did you do drugs when you were younger?
No.
Alcohol problems? Other addiction issues?
No. No, it's just the clock in my head is broken.
So what does that mean?
It means that I tend to be fairly disassociated from things that are based on time. I can't tell the difference between 20 minutes and 2 hours without some sort of external stimulus.
I got to tell you, Frederick, I mean, I know we've been chatting for an hour and a half and all of that. I got to think that other men dumping jizz in your wife's body might have a little bit more to do with your issues than losing track of time. What you're lacking is not, well, time flies when you're being cucked, right? I mean, that is what you're lacking that other people are experiencing is commitment, is monogamy, is love, is relational sanity, loyalty. You didn't marry this woman to hand her around like a piñata, right? Was that the plan from the beginning?
The blended family actually didn't start until we had already been married for 7 years.
So it wasn't the plan, right? Whose idea was it?
Mine.
Why? Yeah, why did you want that blended family stuff? As you said, it was a bad decision. So why did you want a bad decision?
I mean, you you think it's a bad decision.
No, you said it was a bad decision. Now, I know that you have trouble with time, but you can hear it back. But let's forget that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it was a good or
Okay.
bad decision right now. Why did you want to invite other people into the house to have sex with your wife?
Because it didn't bother me and they wanted to.
It didn't bother you that another man wanted to fuck your wife.
Correct.
How do you think your wife experienced the fact that it didn't bother you that another man wanted to fuck your wife and that you facilitated that and invited him in?
Well, it wasn't a surprise. She always knew that about me.
So before you got married, you said, well, if some other guy wants to come along and have sex with you, I'm going to invite him to move in. And I'm going to head out, get a latte at the cafe down the corner so that you can have your fun. That was what she knew about you before you even got married?
Everything except for the moving in part.
So she married you knowing that you would be fine with her having sex with other guys?
Correct. I think that was after I proposed to her before we got married. So she agreed to marry me not knowing that.
See, there's a little bit of a difference there. Right? So she married you thinking that it was going to be monogamous, right?
Yes.
How long after you married her did you say, I'm breaking the vows of monogamy? Bait and switch, honey. It was going to be monogamous. Now it's not. How long after you guys got married did that happen?
It didn't. While we were engaged, I told her that I understood that she was not okay if I wanted to sleep around, but that it didn't bother me if she wanted to. I had no problem committing to a monogamous relationship.
But that she could have sex with other guys if she wanted.
Yes.
Do you understand why that is wrong if you have kids?
Yes.
Why?
Because it has the potential to create an unstable environment.
Well, it has created an unstable environment, right?
A bit, yes.
A bit. Two half siblings who don't even know who their fathers are? A bit, really?
I'm pretty sure they both know who their fathers are.
Okay, I'm not going down that little dance with you again, because that's
Okay.
either something you're going to get or you're not.
Fair enough.
If you want to have kids, you need a stable pair bonding in the family. The mother and the father, stable pair bonding. Let's just go with the traditional genders for the moment. Now, if there's a lineup of guys banging your wife, one of two things, well, I guess one of three things is going to happen. Number one, she gets a horrible STD, which then spreads like wildfire through the family. Not good. Number two, she gets pregnant, as you have found out. Not good. Now you got a messed up family structure. Number three, she gets hollowed out emotionally by having sex with guys outside her husband's circle, or her husband itself, her husband himself. Four, and that she's unable to bond, unable to maintain, and whatever, right? The bond. Or the last possibility is that she falls in love with one of these swordsmen, and then she leaves the family, and you're destroyed. The family's destroyed. So the pair bonding is what's best for the kids. So my question is, Frederick, did you know that before you got married that you wanted to have kids?
Yes.
Right. So why would you risk your children's stability by saying to your wife, go have sex with other guys? It's fine with me. Because if you love your kids enough, you wouldn't want that, right?
Correct.
So what's missing in your heart that you would threaten the stability, security, and happiness of your children by saying to your wife, go have sex with other guys? It's not what they want, right?
I didn't see it as catastrophic at the time as it is likely to be.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that you're not a religious man.
No, not terribly.
Terribly. Because, there's these hard-won lessons that Christianity has gathered over thousands of years of, well, just these kinds of disasters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you not feel concerned that your wife might bond with another guy and then leave you?
No,
Why?
I'm not concerned about it now.
But she's not bonded with you now, is she? Maybe I'm missing something. Why would you not be concerned about something that's already happened, which is her not being bonded with you?
Well, she's most certainly bonded to the household.
You mean the other guy?
No, the other woman. Not in any sort of romantic way, but just...
Okay, good, because I'm running out of hazmat suits to put on for this conversation. Okay, so your wife has not become the lesbian lover of the other half mom in the household. Okay.
No.
Oh, no half moms in the household. The other woman has not had any kids, right?
Yet. Correct.
Are they planning on it?
They have been planning on it for years. That still hasn't happened yet.
Are you going to pinch it, do you think?
I mean, the clock is kind of running out on that.
Oh, she's too old, right?
Well, I mean, we're all early 30s.
Oh, so not too old.
No, not too old yet, but obviously the window is closing.
Yeah, she's got some time, like a half decade. All right. A sense of accomplishment. You don't feel a sense of accomplishment, right?
Correct.
A happy family with secure children is a great sense of accomplishment. But that kind of got fucked, right?
It's a little sideways, but it's not a complete flaming disaster.
How's it going to play out when the kids get older, Frederick? When they start having real questions. When they get into their teenage years, the rebellious years, when they're looking for any crack in the facade of parental hypocrisy. How are they going to feel about their family structure when you're Is it a boy who's 10?
Yes.
When your boy gets to be 13 or 14 and he's full of hormones and anger and frustration and curiosity and skepticism and scorn and cynicism, how's that going to play out? Is he going to respect you when he finds out that mommy has a boyfriend and doesn't have sex with daddy because masturbation is better?
It's entirely possible that he won't.
He won't what? Find out?
No, he won't respect me.
Would you, if you found this out about your father? Let's say that when you were 14 or 15, you found out that your half-sister was actually from another man, or your sister was actually a half-sister from another man, and your father had given full permission for your mother to have sex with other men, and she'd had a boyfriend on the side, and no one had told you about it, and that what you had been led to believe wasn't true. What would you think about your father?
What do you mean what you have been led to believe wasn't true?
Well, does your son know about your mother's boyfriend?
I don't know if he has ever been called boyfriend.
So no, he doesn't know about your mother's boyfriend. Just as he may not know that the two kids have two fathers. What's your son going to do, or how's he going to feel, Frederick? This is the third eye, right? Can you see how you look to others? If you have found out that your father had given permission for your mother to have a boyfriend, what would you think of your father's masculinity, of his strength, of his capacity to evoke devotion on the part of someone else? What would you think of your mother's love for your father if she wanted to and then went out and got a boyfriend?
I am not sure how my 14-year-old self would perceive that, but I wouldn't have an issue with it.
Right. So you hate vulnerability most of all. You hate the vulnerability of not being good at something in school. And you hate the vulnerability of saying, please don't go and have sex with other men because I love you and I care for you and I want you to only want me. You hate vulnerability in this conversation, which is why you use bullshit legalese like correct. You're keeping your heart deep and far away from this conversation. Because you can say to your wife, yeah, you can go have sex with other men. Doesn't bother me at all. That's a power play, you understand? It's saying you don't care. You don't feel vulnerable. You don't feel any insecurity, any possibility that she might bond with some other guy. Because you're a tough guy, right? You don't show weakness. You don't show vulnerability. You fog, you dissociate, you go rubber bones, you passive aggressive. You deny what is blindingly obvious to everyone else. That your teenage son is not going to respect a rampant cuck. He's just not going to. No man could. And this tough guy stuff is costing you everything. I believe. This inability to be vulnerable and to need people means that you're not needed. You're not needed for sex. You're not needed for love. Well, you're needed for money, and you've been paying that. But what if you really did need someone? What if you did say to your wife, I hate that you have a boyfriend. That's wrong. Please dump him. Please just be with me. Let's find a way to make it work. Well, that would put you in a position, Frederick, where you might be rejected, which goes back to you as a kid with the essay question that you weren't good at. You did a half-assed effort. So when you got a C or a D, you could say, yeah, but I didn't really try, so it doesn't matter. Whereas if you really try and then you fail, that's painful. That's painful. I have recommended to people on this show, I think mostly men, that if you care for a woman, you really want to be with a woman, you declare yourself, which means you go and you tell her that you really care for her and want to be with her. And I've done that. Sometimes you get a yes and sometimes you get a no. And the no is very painful. It's very painful to be out there in the world and say, I care. Because most people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people view you saying you care as knowledge about how to control you. I'm vulnerable here. That means I know how to push this person's buttons. So if you say to your wife, I made a terrible mistake. I offered you up to someone else. I refused to fight for you, to win you, to hold you, to keep you, to make you feel treasured, to make you feel wanted, to make you feel mine and mine alone. I didn't want to selfishly hold on to you as mine. I let you go. I let you wander. I let you go have sex with other guys. I even asked a guy to move in. That's how committed I am to never being vulnerable, to never appearing to need anything. If you want to be accomplished, if you want to feel a sense of accomplishment, Frederick, you need to feel vulnerable. Do you know, like every time I've done thousands of these shows, like every time I put a show out, I'm like, oh, I wonder what people think. Huh? It matters. It matters to me. I care. And you have to be vulnerable. You have to risk. You have to commit. You have to wear your heart on your sleeve in order to get a sense of accomplishment. Because if you hide yourself and you pretend to be indifferent and cynical and listless, and I guess you'll never feel rejected. Why? Because you've rejected life already. You can't be rejected if you've rejected life.
Well, that happened a long time ago. I'm
you say
not sure.
That happened like you weren't even there. You don't think you made any damn choices? Ever? Just happened?
Well, I've made all of my choices. I'm not sure how I go back and undo that, or how to start undoing that going forward.
I just told you, man. You sit down with your wife and you say, honey, I done fucked up. I was all kinds of diehard tough guy. I pretended I didn't need you. I pretended I didn't care. I pretended I was fine with it. I'm really not. I'm really not. The worst mistake of my adult life was to let you go. Worst mistake. Worst mistake. It's cost me everything. It's cost me happiness, peace of mind, energy, any capacity to feel pride, a sense of accomplishment, anything. It cost me everything. I can't even imagine what any kind of sense of accomplishment would be like. You know, we prattle on about fucking the wage gap and feminism and bullshit. That's not where my heart is. That's not where my balls are. It's not where any part of me is. What I am is a man broken by pride. What I am is a man broken by an armor I put on to protect myself that emptied me out, and now all I am is clanking, rusty bullshit. I refuse to be vulnerable to you. I refuse to be open with you. I refuse to express preferences with you. And I kind of dared you to take another man because I just didn't care. Well, it turns out, my darling, it turns out that not caring about you means I don't care about anything. I become so tough, so self-sufficient, so proud and alone in my own tower that I feel like I'm never going to touch the ground again. Never going to feel simple grass on my soles. I took a terrible wrong turn before I met you. A terrible wrong turn. I was tempted into appearing indifferent. I was tempted into appearing above it all. I was tempted into appearing cynical and carefree, careless. And it's emptied me out. It's emptied me out. I can barely make it through the day. I don't want to come home. I'm actually scared of where our family unit is going. I'm scared of what's going to happen with my boy when he gets older. I'm scared of what's going to happen with you. I'm scared of this distance between us, which seems to only be growing and getting worse. I'm scared of everything. So I pretend I'm scared of nothing, and I have nothing. I feel nothing. I have no love, no commitment, no connection, no loyalty. And you rather have your hand than me? I'm less than a digit. And I did that. I did that to you. By telling you I didn't need you, by telling you you could go and do whatever you wanted, like it didn't matter to me. And it was a lie, and the only defense I have is I didn't even know it was a lie. I didn't even know it was a lie. I thought it was true. But it wasn't true. And the way that I know it wasn't true is I'm miserable without you. I'm lost. I'm just going through the motions. I'm a machine. I'm empty. Purposeless. Senseless. I have no sense of time. I have no sense of purpose. I have no sense of accomplishment. I have no sense of anything. And you can say no to me. Of course, it's got to come as a bit of a shock because I've been tough guy, rusted armor, empty head for 10 years, and I've been fine with all of this, which I thought I was. I thought I was. You got to lie to other people. First, you've really got to lie to yourself to the point where you don't even know what the truth is anymore. And I just wanted to tell you the truth. That I have made terrible mistakes. You can say no to me now and it's going to break my heart. You have that power over me to shred my life, to break my heart, to wreck everything. But I'd rather take that risk than feel nothing.
How do I go about
No, I'm
convincing?
not letting you rubber bone me. That's my suggestion of what you should do. It's obviously up to you, and I could be completely wrong. But don't stop rubber boning me, and don't stop putting me in a position where I've got to move your arms and move your mouth and make you say stuff. I mean, that's just my suggestion about what I think's going on.
I think what you said is really close, but I think the one part you got wrong is that it's an act. Because I've convinced myself that it's true, that I don't feel anything.
That's what I said, though. I said that when playing you in that monologue, I said that I had fooled myself. I believe that you have. I don't believe you lied to anyone consciously, Frederick, at all. I can feel in your voice in the break now that we're getting somewhere, right?
How do I get to the truth?
See, that's another question that's just designed to paralyze the conversation. If what I acted out for you was close to the truth, that is the truth. Just go fucking say it. Or say what's in your heart. And if nothing's in your heart, say nothing's in my heart. If that doesn't scare you, then there's no point for this call at all, and there was no reason to call in, other than to serve as a warning for others, right?
Yes.
You want her to want you, don't you? You want her to want you, not some guy. You want her to want to have sex with you, not with her hand or some boyfriend, right? Come on. You're a human being. You want that. Wouldn't you, if you could choose Are you saying completely indifferent to whether your wife has sex with another guy or with you? You have no opinion about it whatsoever. Come on, you can't. I won't believe that for a second. Unless this was a seance, and even then with the seance, you'd have the regret of the perspective of the afterlife. But
I have a preference, but I wasn't kidding about the not feeling romantic jealousy.
you have a preference, right?
I do have a preference.
So
Yes.
you have a preference that she want to have sex with you rather than her boyfriend or her hand, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you told her that preference?
Not in a lot of years.
So you're lying. You're withholding. You're
Yes.
hiding.
Yes.
Right. So you say, well, how do I get to the truth? Just tell her the truth. That you don't like it, that she's having sex with a boyfriend and she want to have sex with you, but you know that things have gone wrong to the point where that's where you are. And you apologize for not telling her the truth in the past. You apologize for not telling her the truth about how you felt when she took another man. And you make a commitment to tell the truth going forward. And you do it partly for you, Frederick, but mostly for your children. Because your children need to see a man who tells the truth. You understand?
Yes. Well, that requires a man that knows the truth. Which
No, you're rubber boning me again, man. You know the truth.
It's I've
You'd
been
rather be
lying.
close. Come on. You'd rather be close to your wife than not close to her. You'd rather feel love than nothing. You'd rather have a capacity to have a sense of accomplishment than feel nothing of it. You'd rather want to come home. All of these things you would rather have. And you've been pretending indifference because it gives you a petty kind of stupid power. Whereas honesty and vulnerability, hey, you know what, Frederick? You might tell her this and she might tell you to fuck off. She might say, I hate you. She might say, I feel nothing for you. It's all dead. It's all gone. It might rip you in two, to be honest. And you don't have to, but you already know the alternative. That's why you called in, right?
But yeah. I still don't feel like I'm pretending, though. I feel
So you
the
told me.
indifference.
Fuck. Listen, man. Stop it. Stop this bullshit distant act. You already told me you have a preference, right?
Yes.
Okay. So shut up about everything else because you already told me you had a preference. So then say, well, I don't feel and I don't care and I don't. You told me you had a preference, right?
Yes.
So that's the truth. You want something and you're not being honest about it. You want her to want you. And you're not telling her that. So then when you say, well, but I don't know, and we already established this. Now, you might need to listen to this conversation 10 times in a row and write it down. But you already said that you have a preference.
I definitely plan on re-listening to this.
All right. Okay, good. Well, I appreciate your patience and your commitment to the call. And I certainly wish you and your children and your wife the very best. I'm not sure about these other dudes, but that's a topic for you to mull over. But useful convo?
Yes,
Good.
absolutely. It was the entire reason I wanted to have it because I generally don't have someone to talk to that is anywhere close to as insightful or as intelligent as you.
And I want the best for you and your family. I really do. I know I'm harsh and sometimes it can be grating or shocking, but it is because I want the very best for you, and I work every conceivable fiber that I can to try and help you get it. That's what I'm all about. Just so you know.
I believe that. And one last thing I would like to say, I know, Stefan, you know this, but you have an absolutely phenomenal producer.